Give folks a couple minutes here to get joined up. I'm gonna give it just another minute. Seems like we are still having people trickle in slowly. It's Monday morning for some of us, Monday evening for others. And I'm a stuffy, allergy, cold, confused head this morning as well, so that's not putting my Monday morning off to the best of starts. I'm looking to see if Cole joins. He said a few moments ago on Slack that he would be, and he's one of the main things to talk about today, so need him to arrive. Well, I guess I will go ahead and get started in the meantime, and we can circle back depending on when Cole arrives. I've just dropped the agenda doc link in the Zoom meeting just for reference. Oh, and there's Cole, so perfect. This is Monday, September 24th, our final couple of days on the 112 release. I'm Tim Pepper, your release lead, and this is a recorded meeting. It will be going on to YouTube shortly after the meeting, so please mind our code of conduct and be awesome people. So today, where are we? Things are so close. We've got our overall status there. I'm saying almost green because we still have one nagging issue, but so basically almost nothing merged over the weekend as expected. There were a few relatively minor critical urgent things that came in. Doug has just done a branch fast forward, pulling that, I think it was 2 things from master over to the release 112 branch. That is our last branch fast forward. In a normal cycle, we would have hit this milestone earlier and would have only been doing cherry picks now. But at this point now, going forward, once we thaw, we will only do cherry picks. And to that end, we will thaw the master branch today. We'll talk about that in a little more detail momentarily. And then we have a final couple of days that we can let things soak on test and be watching CI signal just to make sure there's no last surprises. And we're on track for our Thursday release. So test infrastructure then next. It was noted at the end of last week that our publishing bot broke, and there's a bunch of activity there around fixing it. I just note that in the agenda. I will follow up and make sure all of that stuff is done this week. Nothing major, I don't think, there. The main thing to talk about is thawing master. Cole, what's your availability to do that today? And my inclination would be to say let's do it as soon as possible, just so you have your work day to watch and see and triage and pull in any additional help if anything weird happens there.
Yeah, I can do that like pretty much now. It should be a really simple change. It's just a config change, so I can I'll post a relevant link in the chat.
Okay.
But right now we just have two queries defined for the Kubernetes repo, one for the release branch and the master branch, and then one for all the other branches. So I'm just going to delete the one for the release branch and master and make the other one apply to everything. I do have one question about that though, which is in relation to the needs kind and needs sig labels. Are those specifically related to the release, or do we intend to keep those like all the time?
Those should be all the time is my expectation now, right? That's kind of what we decided. I see Aisha's head nodding yes.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, I definitely think they should be there all the time.
So do we want them to just be there all the time, or should we actually require them for merge all the time?
They should be required for merge.
I think they should be required for merge too.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll make that. I'll have that configured then.
Also, this is weird. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Sorry, I'll try and mute again. Not sure how this works.
All good. Well, and if you for some reason aren't muted, I can mute and unmute you as well as the moderator. But it looks like you're muted, Gwen. So all's good.
Yeah. So we'll still. So the big thing about code thaw is that we're gonna have a ton of queued PRs, obviously. Tide will still merge in batches of 5 PRs, just like the submit queue did. I don't expect problems like we had with the submit queue, though. The submit queue really struggled this time of year because it would just burn through all of its API tokens, like just trying to sort the queue because of how many things were in the queue. Tide should not really be affected by queue size really at all. So this shouldn't be really any different than it was like last week. So we shouldn't really see any problems.
In that regard, I am slightly worried because late last week we were feeling relatively crippled by some pre-submit test flakage. So it'll be interesting to see, but this may also then be the thing that really highlights, like, yes, this is a problem.
Okay.
Because we had, I mean, 1 or 2 PRs that we were trying to merge, and it was taking like a day to get them to pass flaky pre-submits. So
Did you characterize that as flaky or continuously failing? Because I think the GKE tests kind of failed.
Yeah, I guess I say flaky because what was happening varied day to day at most, like, and sometimes even less than that. So like there was always something wrong, but what it was different.
Fair. You reach the point where I get persnickety about the definition of flaky.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of like that's also the gist of what I'm saying. Like I think that this is more than flaky, but with only 2 PRs and the it being in flux, it was not our focus last week. So I think if this cripples the project for the next day or two, like it's going to really shine a light on the fact that no, this is failure. This is not just flake.
Well, we will at least get a lot more data over the next day.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you, Cole. And let me know, let me know when that merges, and we can all keep an eye on things there.
Will do.
Okay, so in terms of outstanding issues then on the release, is the week finished? We were looking at some concerns around upgrade, but kubeadm is looking solid at this point as far as I understand. I'm just gonna look. Cluster lifecycle, I guess I do see Lubomir. Is there anything that you think is important to let us know about or continue to look green from the cluster lifecycle side?
So the tests are mostly green at this point, so nothing concerning.
Cool. That was my impression as well. So the one thing that we have there as a worry continues to be the upgrade and or downgrade failures around the so initially, as I recorded an issue last week, it was SIGApp's daemon set upgrade, but there's something bigger than that. And Klaus's node taints by condition is what had come up again as the root cause. And due to some issues there, pods were being misscheduled onto a master node, leading to interesting problems as a result. So there's kind of 2 issues there, and we had 1 PR merge Friday and things looked up from there, but there's still kind of 2 others pending. One of which I think is definitely a blocker, and one it's a cherry pick back to 111 that would make a downgrade test go green and maybe give a little cleaner CI signal on things, but not as worried about that one particular. The bigger issue here is that there's been some, I guess I would say, insufficient concern given to compatibility and the compatibility story even beyond just 112. So one of the remaining things to resolve on the issue that's pending is like, are we deprecating something in 113, or what's the actual overall plan here to make sure that this is solid and stable? So there's a whole bunch of discussion going on that. I'm hoping to get a final decision from the folks and a PR that's reviewed and approved today so that we do still have some runway on CI signal there. But really basically down to that one, even though there's a couple issues there, it's the one problem. On our Golang minor update to 110.4, that merged and things looked pretty much okay, although today I noticed that there is a scalability failure. Looking at the specific failure, it doesn't look at all related to this, and that was our one area that we were wanting to see that we hadn't caused some instability. So I've pinged Wojtek there to get some updates on whether they're worried or not, but it doesn't look like it's anything related to our anticipated watch area there. So continuing to think that is good, and I think and pending confirmation from Wojtek, I'll drop that from the list of things we're tracking this week. Gwen, I know you're on the phone, and I know you're starting a new job today, so I really don't want to call on you to speak unless you really want to, but I can kind of mention our current open issues and PRs otherwise.
Yeah, if you could do that, that would be great. I'm still trying to, yeah, I'm at the airport, so I can pipe in and, yes.
Okay, I really appreciate you calling. I didn't expect you to today. So
I wasn't sure I would be here.
We have, I said 5 open issues. Can I not count? That looks like 6. Yeah, 6 issues. We have 6 open issues today. For my triage, none of them are blockers except the stuff around the node taints and scheduling, and we've already talked about that. And then, of course, the release notes bucket, anything that comes in there would be important. 2 PRs open. One is this node taints scheduling issue that is something I'm treating as a release blocker right now. And then a storage end-to-end test, which is declared not a blocker in the PR there. So even though the numbers have kind of gone back up compared to the 0 last week, still looking okay, and things that can be cherry-picked into point releases pending how they pan out. Any questions, concerns, worries from the team there?
Tim, just one quick clarification. I was looking at the failing scalability ones. Since they're not in the release blocking dashboard, I was just curious if you were looking for scalability tests because you knew that that's where.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, since we wondered if anything weird might happen there, was just kind of separately watching. And I also do the same thing. I think I got this bit of maybe paranoia from Josh Burkus at the end, not just watching our core dashboards, but a couple of the other ones like scalability and cluster lifecycle, depending on what the current issues have been leading up. Like if there have been some wobbles there, to kind of proactively go beyond and look on their dashboards as well, and check in with the SIGs if there's any concerns that they have.
Yeah, if this turns out to be anything concerning, then yeah, we'll have to go and look at why the ones in our release dashboard didn't fail at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the scale tests there are all green. And,
they're all green, so I'm happy and not overly worried, but just sort of being extra paranoid to say like, hey, SIG scalability, I noticed you had this other failure. Should I be worried? Any other questions, comments? Yes, Lubomir.
So the bright red in the agenda notes, there are a couple of PRs that are pending.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, I see that anyone can LGTM this one because it has all the labels and milestone. And is it ready to be merged? Because anyone can LGTM it.
Yeah, I don't think it's ready to be merged. Klaus, who's working on this PR, is also one of the SIG leads there for scheduling. So I'm not expecting any drive-by LGTMs from somebody else. That would be a strange usurpation of his leadership there. But I mean, I suppose it might be worth putting a hold on this, but I don't know. I don't see it as necessary.
Slightly related. Who triages the cherry pick? Is that sick leave? Is that how does that work? In which way is the cherry pick approval process similar to the release triage or priority?
So which cherry pick, on a prior branch or on our current release 112?
Current release 112.
So
I see that they're different. Sure.
Yeah. So for that, at this point, I think it would be a combination of me and Doug. Anything that has gone in that has a critical, urgent issue and has been triaged to say, like, yes, we must fix this in 112, then we'd need to have Doug cherry pick that back. But I believe this is not the normal cherry pick backport stable, or Caleb, yeah?
During the, I guess, entirety of this process, it really is Doug taking the lead, working with any of the SIG leads who have to vet any PRs that are cherry pick candidates, that they actually are targeting, that they're actually a bug fix for some existing functionality.
Right.
So it is going to be Doug making generally the final call there, but with an eye to reduce the risk of adding new PRs this late. So they really should, in an ideal world, be bug fixes to stable functionality, and not, we didn't do this during the release cycle.
Oops, we forgot to add this tweak to the new feature. Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and there we should, as a whole, we should have some visibility onto those things coming in. And right now, the only thing that we're expecting is this 68984 coming from Klaus, since it's not on a trajectory to be in before the thaw right now. So we know we'll have that one, and we know it's justified. And ideally, nothing else comes in because the SIG leadership understands where we are. But every day is a new surprise.
I just want to make sure if I see something coming up that I know who to ping.
Yep. I would say Doug, but also the set of us to get I really feel like a broad set of eyes right now, because the one of our worries and the looseness of this is that some particular SIG lead is just like, branch manager, you have to do this and now, and it's not gotten enough careful, broad consideration.
Gotcha.
Right. I would also suggest that we maybe start following a process like we're starting with the exceptions and storing the list of cherry picks we approved in the release directory so the release team as having that, that transparency and account like auditability. We should start that.
Yeah, we definitely should have a documented process, and the input and output artifacts, having those visible would be valuable. Because one of the ways this fails over time is incomplete set of stakeholders approve and merge something, other stakeholders get broken by it, they want to revert it, and you have this sort of back and forth in a poor feedback cycle, and it takes time then for the feedback loop to settle out into actually a coherent state. So careful, deliberate should be the rule of the game at this point for the release.
Awesome. Duly noted.
Any other questions or thoughts there? Otherwise, I will move on to docs. Just looking to see, don't know that we have anybody from docs this morning, but as far as I know, everything's good and on track there for the week. As of last week, it seemed like we were pretty much ready to go. So in that case, release notes. Nick is finding his unmute button. Uh-oh. Video froze.
There we
There he
go.
is.
Okay, I found it. Yeah. So we are actually in really good shape. The release notes have been copy edited, and I think we'll probably finalize them for the most part tomorrow or Wednesday. Now, what we've done is I've gone through, Lindsay's gone through, we've gone through. There's a bunch of comments on some items that may or may not be user-facing. What we'll probably do is just contact the submitters on those, and if we don't hear back from them right away, we'll just make a call on it. There's a bunch.
If you need any help there getting a response from anybody, let me know also. I can try and jump in.
Appreciate it. Thank you. There's the ones that were in multiple SIGs. I think maybe there's like one that is really questionable about which one it should really go in. But the rest of them, I've kind of noted the usually pretty obvious SIG where it belongs, and I think we're probably just going to use our best judgment on those. So we're in pretty good shape at this point. The only thing that I did want to bring to everyone's attention is, and this is probably a SIG release meeting question more than anything else, is if you look at the document, and I'll throw the link in the chat. Hold on. Come on. Chat. Here it is. What you'll see is that there are some significant sections. Like, there's a lot of changes listed under SIG OpenStack in the major themes, and yet we didn't really see anything come up for individual release notes. There's a mention of custom CFS quota period in the major themes for SIG node, and yet there are 0 release notes that appear to have anything to do with that, which basically means one of 3 possibilities. Possibility 1 is the release notes are there, I'm not making the connection because it doesn't use the word custom CFS quota period. 2, somebody just, release note none'd it, or I forgot what the third possibility is, but so I don't know what's going on there, and I haven't had a chance to kind of dig in to figure it out yet.
My money would be on the release note none route, and I would say for those couple instances, send a pointed message to the SIG leadership there and say, hey, this is a mismatch, and y'all, our suspicion is that it's just an issue of release note nuns, and y'all ought to try maybe aspire a little higher quality to the release note comment on your PRs, and as reviewers, we need you to do that.
Yeah, okay, I will do that. I'm really way more concerned about SIG OpenStack.
That's a huge discrepancy in the list there.
Yeah, exactly. There's like 20 of them here, and there's no release notes for it. So I'm like, what the hell, man? So, yeah.
That's a great opportunity to just ping them and say, like, hey, this is a sign maybe that y'all should remember the release note.
Yes. So, so we'll go ahead and do that. The other thing I wanted to ask is, I actually had a note here that taint nodes by condition, it says taint node by condition has been moved to beta and it is enabled by default. And my note is this true? I thought it was still at risk, but then if I'm understanding correctly, you're considering that a blocker. So if it's not ready, we're not releasing anyway. Is that correct?
Yes, so that is coming in as beta, and it just happens to have had a lot of bugs. If I could go back to July or August in my time machine, I would be pushing on them a whole lot harder and threatening to remove them. But it is what it is at this point. I think things have settled down at this point. The issues fairly localized. It's an interesting bug, and it's just taking them a little bit of time to figure out how they want to address the compatibility story there.
Yeah.
So to that end, I did add just a little suggestion today, just a reminder on this front up at the very top in known issues. So depending on the outcome of that PR 68984, it's going to have a release note. It could touch on SIG node and or SIG scheduling, and potentially then merits actually just calling out as a known issue at the top level.
Okay.
So I'll keep tracking that today, tomorrow, and let you know there in the Docker or however what bubbles out of them there.
That sounds good. That sounds good. All right, cool. So that's it.
All right, cool. So that brings us to comms updates. I know we've got press interviews underway. I've got like 3 or 4 scheduled today, tomorrow, where the press wants to talk to the release lead and hear about the release. But is there anything else on the comms front that we should be aware of?
Nope, this is the big week for press, and then Stephen and I will put the final touches on the blog post for Thursday, just to make sure all the correct features are in there. So we are in great shape.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the agenda end. Aside from really pushing on this one particular issue, monitoring the thaw today and the status during the week of the breakage around the publishing bot, I feel like we're in good shape, and it's good that we only have basically one thing we're looking at, and we should have it hopefully resolved in the next day-ish is my hope. So. All right, one last call for any thoughts, comments, concerns. Aish, is there anything that you need from folks around 113 prep?
So I've been sending out some calendar invites to the milestone Burndown list for all the 113 meetings. But I kind of see that when folks try to accept it, they're running into some issues. So I'm kind of debugging it right now. But yeah, just if people can watch out for those invites once again, that'll be awesome.
Calendaring is a disaster. Somebody someday is going to make a bunch of money solving this for the world.
Yeah,
it's true, but I'll add you to the SIG release calendar as an admin today, so you can add people there as well.
Okay, awesome. That'll be great. Yeah, I kind of sent out the invites from my non-Google account, but yeah, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I'll have to figure that out. Thanks, Caleb.
Question for people is anyone interested in renaming Kubernetes milestone Burndown to Kubernetes release team? I feel that that's a little bit more accurate about what's going on.
The Burndown meetings are open to everybody, not just necessarily members of the release team, and so that's why we say you can join the Burndown Google group to get invites to the Burndown meetings, especially for those cases where we want people who are from different SIGs to show up temporarily to address like ongoing issues or like scalability stuff, for example.
Do they come out of the same calendar? I'm just curious. That would be the delineation.
There's a separation between we could chat offline, but there's a separation between the calendars and the mailing list. The milestone Burndown is one of the earlier group, Google groups. That's separate from the SIG release mailing list stuff and calendar.
Got it.
So there used to be like an individual's Google account that sent out the calendar invites to the Burndown, but now we moved to a shared calendar because single points of failure.
Okay.
Cool.
And Caleb, while you're in there adding Aish on that, feel free to remove me.
Sounds good.
I will not be removing the release date. No more calendar invites for me. Oh, so that does remind me something I should mention again. At the top of this document should be linked. Oh, it's not. Let me fix that. The retrospective, we need to talk about that. Do we have it scheduled for? Yeah, in theory, we should be doing some retrospective discussion on Thursday in the community meeting. I will check who is running the community meeting on Thursday and see if we can get some time on the agenda. George says it's Josh, so I'll ping Josh on that.
If it doesn't happen this Thursday, I'm okay with that because I probably won't be able to make it.
Okay, I will, and also in past in the past, there's been sort of the portion in the community meeting for broad discussion, and then we followed on also, I think, in the SIG release meeting team slot to the SIG release meeting instead of the release team meeting, and that meeting's time slot to have a discussion focused amongst us as well to kind of follow on. So there's still opportunity there.
Yay.
And I'll ping Jace because in the past he's been interested in facilitating these discussions as well. So stay tuned. I'll send a message letting folks know when and where we'll be doing this. And obviously, if you have thoughts, if you could spend a little time today, block off a little time and think about things that impacted you or you'd like to see changed, improved, drop a note in that retrospective document. That'd be awesome. All right, I think that's everything that I wanted to make sure we talked about. I appreciate all of your help this cycle, and I appreciate those of you who've committed to helping in the next cycle as well. So thanks, and stay tuned. Hopefully we get this one issue cracked in the next little while, and I'll be letting people know about the release theme and stuff too. And I think I have everybody's t-shirt size now too, so there's gonna be t-shirts. All right, thank you all. Have a good day. We will regroup tomorrow morning, bright and early.
Later.